When it comes to the world of Roblox, it is honestly a very nuanced and I guess deep community. There are countless sub-communities in Roblox with their own sub-communities, and it's filled with people who love games and have general interests and blah 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 blah. Roblox in general too is honestly just a pretty awesome place sometimes, and even though I'm a goddamn fossil, I still in a way enjoy Roblox. There have been so many memories that I've made over the years with it, and in general, like, some of my favorite games are on Roblox, which is kind of embarrassing to say, but yeah. However, everything has a dark side, and Roblox is definitely no stranger to that. However, one of the things that I haven't really seen too much, like, been brought up too much, is this underground, like, sex ring, almost. No, it's more like a sex community with how shockingly large it is. Roblox has seemingly overlooked and actively ignored it, which is also pretty bad, and in general, it is something that isn't discussed about enough. So that's why I'm here to look about around this pretty disturbing part of Roblox and share with you what I found. I really did try on this one, and I know this isn't going to be some documentary or some hour-long YouTube video, but I still tried to find as much as I could without going too far into the weird stuff. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this one. Now, the whole thing with this whole sex community, I guess, is that it goes back pretty far in Roblox's history. However, with what they seem to be doing update-wise, Roblox at least, it's really further enforced or made more of these sex rings and encouraged it, I guess, to some degree, especially with things such as 17 plus games. You have voice chat and things like that. Now, with I guess the Roblox sex stuff, these accounts and games and groups have been around for a pretty long time actually, but have only really begun to be more and more prevalent and relevant as more and more light is being shed onto this dark side of Roblox. Let's first look at where a lot of these accounts can be found at first, which are groups. If you don't know what a Roblox group is, it's basically where a user can join a community, which can be for a game or for a fan of a YouTuber and so forth. These groups are made to update users on some games in some cases, sell them virtual cosmetics or clothes, or give them rewards in games or just things like that. Now, the thing is that if you really start digging, you will find some weird groups. Now, when I was doing this investigation, the group wasn't the first thing I found, but it's a pretty good place to start. So let's start with this one group I found called Snow Bunny Heaven. Now, if you don't know, Snow Bunny is a derogatory term used to describe attractive white women who are actively seeking for black men, and specifically black men to engage in sex with, and these black men are usually referred to as bulls in this dynamic. It's mostly used in pornography and a lot of sexually explicit material. Now, it's already kind of weird to have that referenced in a Roblox group, but let's overlook that for now. Now let's look at the actual group. There's not much at all. If you look at it, there's a description that says, "Hey, I'm a bunny," followed by a combo of emojis that essentially say Snow Bunny, obviously, and then "Welcome to my group." That's it. The only reason this group is so simple is because it only exists to do one thing, which is to make it easier for users to find each other who want to engage in hot Roblox, if you know what I'm saying. Now, it's pretty obvious when you have, I guess it's a little obvious when you have a group named after a, term that is commonly used in sexual contexts. I guess it makes more sense. I guess that's what I'm linking up here and stuff like that. And some of these accounts, also, there's a lot of them, mind you, in these types of groups. There are a few thousand in this one, I believe, about 3,000. And if you look through them yourself, I'll talk about them later, but they definitely look interesting. Again, we'll talk about that later. Now, when I began to look through a lot of these accounts and these groups, I found something very, very quickly, which is that there are a lot of groups like this one, some of which are deleted but still active because Roblox, when a Roblox deletes a group, it's not exactly gone all of the time. And so one of the first ones I looked at after this was this deleted one, but it still provided pretty interesting results compared to the rest. This group, whatever it was, allowed users to write on a community board of sorts, and a few of these hot Roblox groups have these too. Now, these allowed me to see how accounts could also talk to each other and interact, and it's kind of crazy because I actually didn't realize how recent and active this group was until I saw Flint and Steel in one of the posts, and then I realized, I started looking at the dates, and they were from a few days before I started this whole investigation, so yeah. Anyways, what I gathered was that these groups essentially use the group board as a place to advertise, I guess themselves, or I guess services. I mean, most of them say check my bio or refer to their bio, but some of them, oh sweet lord, these should not be on Roblox. Now, there are also these suspiciously, these Now these are just like the suspiciously like meaningless groups, I guess is one way of putting it. I don't really know how to put it. Like they're groups that don't really serve a purpose when you look at them from the outside without the context of it's meant for engaging in like sexual activity. However, there's one interesting type, and that being it's clothing groups with big air quotes on clothing. These groups are essentially loopholes, or they use a loophole. What do I mean? Well, with Roblox groups, there are a lot of groups that sell clothing of all kinds, usually shirts and pants, right? So what if you made a group that sold clothes, but deep down, everyone knew it was just a place to meet each other? Kind of like if you had a deli sandwich place, but everyone really only came to your place because you sold weed in the back and nobody actually came to the deli shop. It's like Schedule 1, I guess. But that's one of the groups I actually found called Bunny Winks. I wonder what the bunny part could be referring to. Now, this group doesn't have a board, but just looking at the member list, it's pretty clear that it's another one of these like meetup groups, kind of like the first one I showed, Snow Bunny Heaven, right? One of the accounts I literally saw were actually like naked, like straight up naked with like boobs and stuff. It's insane. I don't know how they managed to slip that by Roblox, I guess moderation, but yeah. Now again, there are a lot of groups to talk about. There are so many, and I just can't go through all of them because there were a lot to look through, but I'm hoping you kind of get the general idea. Plus I looked through God knows how many accounts trying to find these, so yeah. Now, speaking of accounts actually, what's going on with those? Now, the accounts are where things start to get a bit more disturbing, to say the least. Now, I'd like to remind you this before I get into like everything here. About half of Roblox users are under the age of 17, according to a statistic study done in about 2024, I think it was December, and a majority of the ones who are in this ring are most definitely underage, as we'll soon discover. Now think about it like this. If you are 17 or 18 and you don't have why would you use Roblox? Why, out of every possible app, every possible communication method, would you use Roblox? You have access to things like Tinder and Grindr, which are meant only meant for people who are 18 and over. So if you really think about it, if you're not 18, Roblox and Discord, but I'm not going to even talk about that. That is arguably worse. Roblox is probably one of your best bets, weirdly enough. So if you really think about it, a lot of these accounts are underage. It's really gross to think about. I don't like thinking about it, but it's unfortunately one of the main things. Or the accounts are like some 50-year-old dude behind a screen preying on children, which is also equally disturbing. So yeah, now let's start to look at some of these accounts here. A lot of them have an absurd amount of friends, is one of the first things you'll notice, like a lot of friends. And both of them, men and women, are friended to men and women, or at least what I will assume are men and women. God forbid it's some dude behind a screen who's like 50 years old. And they also have like a lot of banned accounts too. I wonder why they got banned. Now, if you also look through a lot of their friends, they also have a ton of friends. And I can only imagine the reason for this is because, let's say you friend someone, right? And they have 100 people, right? 100 friends. That's 100 friends that you could try connecting with so you can engage in sexual activity, right? It's essentially like a network. It's like networking with other people, right? Now, the two things about these accounts that are the most standout to me are the bios and the outfits. Oh my god, and the names as well. Some of the names are the funniest things I've ever read, and then some of them are just like really, really, really make me just cringe, right? There are so many accounts where you'll read it and it's like, looking for a good time, wink wink, I got that BBC, and it's like, yeah, thank you for that one, Winter Arc-Boy. It's so stupid. And I'll see shit like this. Yeah, I don't like that. Now, bios are one of the most interesting parts of this all because it's like this whole code or this whole system they have in place to talk with each other. I don't even know what to say half the time, honestly. One account I found, one of the first ones I found, had a pastebin link with a password. And looking into this, I actually looked into the pastebin. I don't even know what to say. Apparently they write that they're willing to trade and upload, and also use Studio. So here's a really important thing. This also goes for the groups as well. When they refer to trading or uploading, it is probably CSAM or something like that. It is probably CSAM though. And if you don't know what that is, by the way, CSAM or CSAM is child sexual abuse or exploitative material, which are videos and photos of real children in real situations or minors that are sexually explicit, not art or animations. This is like real stuff, right? And the Studio part of, you'll notice this too, a lot of them will start referring to Studio Studio is a loophole essentially, where you can download or make sex games on Roblox Studio and then invite other players as collaborators and then play said games together so you can engage in whatever the hell you want. And Roblox cannot moderate these because they are in Studio and not published. So yeah, shout out to my experienced sex Roblox friend and MF Ghost Lover MSV Idios. I'm kidding, he just assumes that the loophole with the Studio thing is whatever. Yeah. So I remember finding one account actually that said Snow Bunny 2.5k loads swallowed, and I audibly gasped when I read that. I can't find that account anymore. It's probably banned. But yeah, like 2.4k row loads. I find that quite frankly, like the idea that someone has managed to do this for that long is quite frankly shocking. And you know, some other accounts will include like Discords without Discord. So they'll say like they'll give their username, and it'll be pretty obvious it's their Discord. However, one of the craziest ones was this one. I don't know what the payment method would be. They say tip and then a thing. I'm assuming it's some kind of way to pay them, right? But the fact that minors are getting paid for Roblox sex just shocks me. They're on the groups, some of them I found actually literally say that they are willing to do anything for Robux, not Roblox. So yeah. No, actually I'm kidding. That's not the craziest one I've seen. The craziest one I've seen is this one. This one literally discloses her age and it says she is 10. That's disgusting. That's vile. Of course, I reported all of these accounts, but that one I like double reported to make sure. Or another one is this one. This one is also insane as well because, okay, look, this might look like a bunch of gibberish, but to anyone who is familiar with codes or ciphers will immediately know that this is definitely a cipher. And if you're really smart and majored in cryptology or something like that, you probably recognize this as a Caesar cipher. Putting it through a decoder gives us this. I'm not reading that out loud. Your jaw is probably also on the floor as well to how insane this is. And of course, some of these other accounts will openly talk about how they are trading, which is in reference to CSAM. Mind you, I haven't been talking about the goddamn cosmetics they wear, which are equally insane and go through lots of Roblox loopholes. There are two types, right? You got male accounts, which have two types of them. There's two types of male accounts. You got femboys or twinks, I guess is what they call themselves. And then the other type being shirtless black guy with a man face, right? Or, yeah, you get the idea. Most of the male accounts are shirtless black guys with man faces, but sometimes you'll see like femboys and stuff who wear like pretty revealing clothing, but do not even get close to matching the unhinged nature of the, I guess, female outfits I've seen. The female outfits are either some of the goofiest and most funny things I've ever seen. Like, I don't even know how you can get legs that big in Roblox. And then sometimes it is the most absurd thing you will ever see. Hell, some are wearing lingerie or are literally naked with high-res, like, genitalia and boobs, and I literally can't even show that to you guys, but it's shockingly detailed. And all of this kind of makes me regret UCG and stuff like that, but whatever. Now, one of the last things with these accounts, which can also apply to groups as well, is that they are trying to break out of Roblox, in other words, where these accounts are trying to escape Roblox's moderation. And this is why I always felt so iffy about Roblox, like allowing Discord to be so easily displayed on pages such as games and groups. One of the groups I literally saw was probably linking to a Discord that would trade, CSAM, and probably trading CSAM for Robux or cash or to sketchy people. I find it very disturbing that I obviously did not go into the Discords. I'm not even going to show them on the screen. But you get the idea. I don't even want to go into those because that is a dangerous place and I don't want to see any of that. Now, honestly, there is so much of these accounts and groups that I just can't cover for the sake of time. There are so many. But I'm sure you kind of get the general idea of how these accounts and groups run, trying to break out of Roblox, trying to engage in sex via the studio loophole I mentioned, trying to trade CSAM, etc., etc. But there's one thing that is also probably weird about these accounts and groups. How has this been around for so goddamn long? Look, if you haven't been able to pick up by some of the profiles, some of these are shockingly old, like 3 years old, and same with the groups too. Some of them are like a few months old or even older. Some of these accounts have been around for like years, and I don't know, like why hasn't Roblox done anything about them? Well, a few things. First of all, loopholes. Roblox has a serious issue with loopholes, and we already talked about them with groups earlier, disguising, these like sex groups as clothing groups, which are very common, or like, the ones where we see the codes. Actually, there's one that I'm gonna call it a friend right now. And we just found one where it's this. I'm not going to show it to you. I blurted some of it out, but you can already kind of see what they're talking about there. And, there's things like that, right? But there's things that I didn't talk about as well. Like games. A lot of these accounts will probably meet on some games. Obviously, we talked about Studio and how they will meet on Studio, like Roblox Studio games, where they're probably the sex games that are like, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. However, there are games that aren't inherently sexual, but they will definitely encourage or lead to sexual activity. And the creators of these games damn well know that'll happen. Take for example like the unholy surge of bathroom simulators or bathroom hangouts or other sketchy hangout games, which have things such as showers, like toilet stalls, and bathtubs, and also just the ability to lay down or do push-ups. I wonder what would happen if someone laid down and someone just, happened to do push-ups on them. I really wonder what it looks like. These have been all over Roblox and are still in Roblox in a variety of different forms. However, because they don't directly promote sexual activity, it can't be blamed on the creator, and it's just blamed on the user, not the game developer. However, okay, you might be also asking yourself this. Fine then, what about all of the accounts that we just saw that were most definitely breaking TOS and shit? Well, here's the deal, alright? Every year, Roblox is very slowly phasing out manual moderation, which they outsource to Asian call centers from what I've read, with AI-powered moderation, which is allowing for a lot more mistakes. Like the one we just saw with the Caesar cipher, or the frickin' Morse code one that I just showed you. That probably scarred you for life, I am so sorry. It's obvious to any human that if they see a bunch of dots and dashes, that it's a code, and it's hiding something. But to an AI mod system that's only used to blurring out profanities and stuff, obscure codes are going to go right through that. It can easily bypass that. It doesn't even help that they've added, freaking voice chat, making it way easier to do sketchy shit. There have been countless hangout games where you can find deep voice men looking for kittens on Roblox and making them meow and shit. But the bigger issue is that rather than taking action, Roblox is constantly refuting this and actively letting it fester to a whole new level despite how blatantly obvious this is. Like, they are, instead of, maybe considering more manual moderation, they have just been phasing it out with more and more AI moderation. I mean, in multiple public statements too, and they've done a lot of shit. They have done a lot of sketchy shit. If you look at some of their public statements, they have time and time again refuted the fact that they have inflated player counts for investors to try and cover up the fact that, Roblox is not as big as it really is. Or they have tried to say, no, there isn't anything actually sexual going on, like the groups and games and etc. And it's bad. It really is bad. And I also feel bad for a lot of these minors using Roblox as an adult website and a place to do virtual prostitution, because that shit really does fuck you up later in life. It really does, especially for girls, and I say that from personal experience. I understand a lot of these people are just a bunch of teenagers trying to understand their sexuality and feeling lonely and are desperate to experience sex, which has been glorified by media and probably social media. But this really isn't the way to do it. It really isn't. Again, I've seen this shit. It's bad. It will mess you up. Whoring yourself out for some row meat from some guy who's exploiting you is not worth it. Sending nudes and making CSAM or CSAM, which will end up on God knows how many dozens and dozens of accounts sharing them and like freaking on websites, just doing that for Roblox, like, it isn't worth it. But, in the end, that's honestly all I can really say. I've looked as deep as I could without getting too far in, and there's a lot more to this that I probably haven't touched upon, and if there really is something I'm missing, please do let me know. I look at all of your guys' comments on this channel. If there is more to this underground side of Roblox, I will look further into it 100% without a doubt, and I want to dig to every part of this and expose everything for what it is. But other than that, that's all I have to say. See you guys next time.